welcome to the Santana Show. My name is Naomi Santana, and my guest today is Kelsey Mira. Kelsey is a singer-songwriter from Cincinnati, Ohio, and she used to sing at 208 Rodeo. So how have you been during the pandemic?
So all things considered, I've been good. I've been surrounded by family. I definitely miss performing. But what has been good in my career bubble is I've been doing a lot more remote session work. So I've been singing for video games and other commercial projects from home, which has been super nice to be able to continue working and teaching lessons. So it's been good. I've been able to keep working, but everything changed. I mean, just the whole industry kind of flopped and did a 180.
Right. So you said you're singing for video games, right? How is that going?
It's good. It's a thrill. I work with a composer named Gareth Coker, and he is an incredible musician, an incredible writer. So the latest one that came out is Immortals Phoenix Rising. And I'm the diva Oz. When you hear like, oh, you'll hear it kind of going through, and that's me.
I love it. That's perfect. So with your lives that you do every Friday, you've been getting attention from all over the world. How does that feel?
Amazing. I'm always shocked people will speak to me in other languages, and there'll be someone from France like tu chantes très bien, tu es très belle. I'm like, oh my gosh, hi. And it'll be 2 or 3 p.m. and they make it a point to come on every Friday. So I always sing their requests because they stay up half the night just to catch the hour performance. So that's been amazing, and it's just been so much fun to connect with people and then have conversations with people all over the world and hear what it's like where they are. In some places, COVID isn't as bad. So it's been really cool to connect with all of these different people. I feel, in a strange way, more connected than I was pre-pandemic. I feel like I talk to my friends more, and then I talk to people in other countries and get to connect with them online. So that whole process has been really essential and healing for me, because I don't feel so isolated.
It's just lovely to hear that you can connect more with people.
Yeah.
So how many languages can you speak?
So I sing in many different, I speak a little bit of French.
Mm-hmm.
I sing in French, Italian, German, Hindi, Spanish, and recently I did Mandarin, but it was actually for a project, and it was a guide vocal. So it wasn't nearly perfect, but I learned some phonetics, and that is the hardest language of all. Oh my goodness.
So can you tell me a little bit about yourself? I know that you've said before, like in your lives, that you went to school to study music, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yes. So I received a full scholarship to study vocal performance at Xavier University in Cincinnati. And from there, I was told that I should only sing opera because other genres of music could hurt my voice, and I really wanted to do everything. So I didn't really listen. And after college, I started, and throughout college, really, I was singing, doing session work in Nashville and working with producers out there on my own stuff. And then started to work with another vocal coach who really taught me how to sing pop and rock. So I studied the voice quite a bit, and transitioning from different genres of music and not sounding like an opera singer on, say, a Taylor Swift song where I don't want to sound like I stay out too late. I don't. Not, so it's been a really interesting journey, and they brought me out to Los Angeles and doing more commercial work, which was always my dream. But after school and in school, I would perform every weekend at bars, and I put my own band together, and we had a really good run for a long time. We did like the original music circuit, and then we also did a bunch of private gigs kind of all around town and in Kentucky, Ohio, like that sort of area before I came out here. So I was really blessed to work with some great coaches and sing in many different languages, because I never realized how much that would come into play in my life. And being, especially like my gig at 208 was with tourists all around the world. So they want to hear something in their language, and to be able to pull that out was an asset for the restaurant too, because they'd be like, oh, like Kelsey can sing an Italian song for you. And that was just great, and learning phonetics. And yeah, that's helped me a lot in my career. And sight singing too. I never realized that in the music industry, they want to work with singers who can read. So that's a skill I never knew that I would use so much. But I thank all of my professors for making me sing my scales over and over again and read music, because it's been very beneficial.
How did you become interested in music?
It's an interesting story. I was diagnosed with bacterial meningitis when I was 7. So I almost didn't survive, but by some miracle I did. And I've only met one other survivor in my lifetime. And he's had a lot of the same kind of brain effects that I did. So I had short-term memory loss for a long time. It's where the spinal fluid gets infected and then your brain swells. You have brain damage from that typically. So I struggled a lot. I went from being a very smart kid to being lost and confused all the time. I was already interested in music, so my neurologist said if I put everything to music, I would remember it. So I would put directions to music, I would put my address to music, my locker combination, eventually math formulas, and I would make up like cosine, sine, tangent, secant, cotangent, +1 cosecant to learn these formulas. And it's just, what happened was one part of my brain rewired it kind of into the next. So I'm very creative, even with science and math. I see it differently, but I did really well in school. And part of my scholarship in college was an academic scholarship as well as a music scholarship. So it's amazing just how much you can heal. But it was something I had to do. Music for a long time was like how to learn. And then of course I fell in love with it. And I was like, there's nothing else I'm going to do with my life. Music is everything. But yeah, for a long time, I relied on it to get through a school day. So it's really how I got into it.
Wow, that's an amazing story and very unique too.
Thank you.
So like when you came up with the songs for like, for example, your math class, did that help you with your exams and like your homework and everything? Did you
Yes,
share it with others or was it just like for
I
you?
actually got in trouble once. The whole class got in trouble because everyone aced a calculus exam when they would normally fail it. It was like the hardest exam and everyone aced it. So the teacher was like, all right, who is cheating? And they all like pointed at me and they said, Kelsey made a song. And then I got up and then I was singing the formula songs I made up, and everyone memorized them that way. And the teacher was like, I don't know. Actually, I got interviewed on the news and I was like, I'm not a cheater, I promise. I'm just helping kids. So as I got older and I started teaching others, I love working with kids who are creative or kids with special needs who struggle with learning, because everyone can benefit from putting something to a song. It's just like the ABCs. So it's definitely become something I want to share, and I want to write a book and open up a tutoring program for kids, and I want to do a lot of stuff with it because I really think that the modern way of like standard curriculum just doesn't work for every child. Some kids could really benefit from like a creative approach.
Right. That's so interesting and so amazing to hear that everyone aced the class. Oh my gosh. I mean the exam.
Yeah, the exam. Everyone aced it, and it was even the kids that were struggling. And so she was like, "Okay, what's going on here?" And I was like, "Come on, everybody, cosine, sine, tangent, secant." And they're just like dancing, and you can do it at any time. Anyone can learn, because our brains remember rhythm and music because it's part of like a sequencing process, and we fill in the blanks. So, dog rhymes with frog, and here's the storyline, and we just remember song lyrics and stuff easier than just standard like memorizing something.
So is that how you came up with your idea to start vocal lessons of your own? Yeah.
Yeah. At first, I was working a lot with my band, and I was getting these requests for people in my neighborhood, and the parents would be like, "Hey, my kid has an audition. We don't know anybody. Can you help them?" And so that's really how I got into teaching. And so I would help a kid, they would do really well, another kid would come my way, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, like this is a business. This is cool." Like, because I'd wanted to start teaching after school. It just, I had to build it, but it was sort of like just happening naturally. And then one thing I wanted to do was help. And I would have these nights where a parent would call me and they'd be like, "Hey, I can't bring my kid to their lesson. They're going to fail their math test." And I would be like, "No, bring them. Bring them and we'll study together, and we'll write a song about it." And they're always kind of skeptical. They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I promise. Just bring them." And then it's so cool to get that call the day after, like, "She just aced it." What? But it's magic, but it's not my own. Like, it's out there and anyone can do it.
How are your lessons going
They're
right
good.
now?
They're all online. So I was doing part in person and part online. But another great thing about being online is it can be globally. So I teach all over the world. I teach in London, I teach in Ohio, I teach here. People can take from anywhere, any time zone. We can like work out a lesson time. So they've been going really well, and my schedule is filling up a lot in the pandemic. I wasn't sure if people would want to keep taking lessons, but they've actually been really good about keeping up their lesson, and they kind of know that they can't make the excuse of, "Well, I'm in traffic." It's like you're home. So I make all the
Exactly.
it's been good, and it's been a saving grace too because it's kept me so busy, and I love teaching, so it's been a lot of fun too.
Could imagine.
Yeah, it's great.
You got interviewed by someone from BBC, right?
Yes, so it was so unexpected. I shared my video, and I did notice that I was getting more people in the UK. They were like commenting on it, and so it was a karaoke page. And then someone gave my name to someone else with the BBC, and then he had a radio show, and he interviewed like my whole quarantine kind of song Friday thing. He talked a lot about that and just where I've come from as a singer, and they thought it was so cool that I was in California because it's rainy and cold over there, and they're like, "What are you looking at when you look outside?" I'm like, "Palm trees." So it was such a thrill, and just to know that your voice is being heard across the way, and people are listening to you from a place where it's like 7-8 hours time difference. It was so cool. I was like nervous and energetic the whole time. I was like giggling. I was just so happy. And it's hard too because I don't know if this happens to you, but when someone speaks in an accent, it's like I want to speak in their accent and I have to try not to. But I want to be like, it's really good, thank you. And it's just talking to people that I just have met, those new connections that you have every day.
So you wrote a song about Stephen King. You said, I think you're a fan, right, of Stephen King?
I'm a diehard fan, yes.
So how did the process of writing the song go?
Well, I was reading one of his novels one night, and I was in a really bad mood, and I was just kind of having a bad day, and he always brought me a little comfort because his nightmares were always worse than my own. Like, you read a Stephen King novel and you're like, I'm good. Like, my life's doing fine. I don't have like a pet cemetery in my backyard. I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
It's like all those crazy stories he has. So I'm reading one night, and I just kind of heard, I was reading Full Dark No Stars, which is like 4 short stories, and I was like, full dark no stars, it's the middle of the night. And then I was thinking, nothing here but my body and devil's wine, because there's nothing here but me I'm lying here by myself reading this novel, and then Devil's Wine is like another story of his, and I'm like, and I was like, so I ran downstairs and I sat on the piano and I just started writing it, and then I played it for my roommate at the time, who's a producer, and he was like, "Whoa, when did you come up with this?" I'm like, "Tonight." I don't know where it came from, but it was like an extension of storytelling, I think. I was just so inspired by what was on the page. I kind of just stopped for a moment. It's almost like a different sort of consciousness that you go into as a creative. And I was like, whoa, there's a song here. And so I became very excited about writing it and didn't stop until it was all written. And then I recorded it because when the inspiration's there, you kind of want to get it down. And then the next morning I listened and I was like, how did I come up with this? I don't even remember like doing this. It's one of those moments of just like, what? So yeah, he's just a really inspiring storyteller. He's incredible. And it's so hard to be an author and to have a very successful career. And he's just made it look easy. I feel like he wasn't even asking for all the fame. He was just like, here's my gift to you. Like, here are these stories. And then people like me became super fans, and now he's a sensation. He's awesome. I really want to meet him one day. I bought these skull mugs,
Mm-hmm.
and these are going to stay in the cabinet until Stephen King comes over one night for dinner. And I just always look at those and I'm like, I'm ready.
You have the inspiration to like write a song. Like, what do you typically like just do what you did that day that you like, if you have it, you immediately go to the piano and like, or like you write it down or something? Do you have like a notebook next to you or like your phone or something to write it
Usually
down on?
Yeah, usually what I'll do is in my notes, I'll put in like the lyric that I'm hearing, and then I have voice memos in my phone. So I'll just be like sitting at the piano, and I'll just be like, sitting here getting interviewed by Nobby, Nobby. And then I'm like, ooh, I like that song. And so I will use the memo of it. Then I'll be calling, I'll be like, D minor to C to G major, let's throw in an A minor, and I'll like kind of go through the chords too. And then I will just start building from there. But the thing about inspiration is it can leave you just as quick as it comes. It's like a dream. And if you wake up and you don't write it down, you'll never remember it. It's like one of those things. So you jot it down as soon as you can with as many details as possible, and then start building it. Sometimes you throw it away. Sometimes you come back to it a year later and you're like, this is brilliant. But I recently moved 1,500 voice memos from my phone to an external drive because I was making space on my phone. And a lot of them are mid-sleep recordings where I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, there's a song in my head, I have to record it. And so half of my recordings are like, and last night I was like, it's just me like with my sleep voice, like singing. Sounds like someone's like doing this to me. I'm like, and everything's happy. But yeah, I had 1,500 of them just in the course of a few years. So ideas are always sort of flowing. And my belief too is that if you keep that process going and you keep like honoring the ideas that come in, they keep coming. And so sometimes they come and you're at a party and you don't want all these ideas to come, but they're coming. And you're like, okay, I need to excuse myself and write these down. So I've done that before, like run outside the party, like singing into my phone.
That's perfect.
You start to learn how you get inspired. Maybe it's going for a hike, or it's listening to your favorite music or watching a movie, but you find these sort of catalysts for inspiration. And then it's kind of fun because you can go on these like inspiration trips where you're like, okay, if I go running and I come home and I eat a bowl of ice cream, I'm going to write a really cool song. It's like weird, these weird little things that you figure out, but it's super helpful.
What would you say to anyone who is interested in music? Like, what tips or advice would you give to them?
So I would tell them to never scrap an idea, never think that they're dreaming too big. It's like in the creative world of songwriters, of singers, of musicians, of everybody, like there's so many things you can do. And so if that's what you want to do, go for it with everything you have. If you want to play piano, don't think about the end of the line and don't think about all those people who are better than you. Just do it and do it every day and practice and honor it, because you're going to look back 10 years later and be like, I'm so glad I put everything into this because look what I've created. So I just always say go for it. And in life it's limitless. We can do anything we put our minds to. It's just if we decide not to do it or we quit, that's when we don't have what we want. But I always tell, I have all kinds of different talented kids that I work with and adults, and I always tell them, there are so many possibilities for you. You could be a songwriter. You could be a singer-songwriter. You could write for TV. You could be a composer for video games. There's a million different things you can do. Like, just never give up and never be too hard on yourself, because there's always somebody looking up to you and being like, I want to do that. That looks so cool. So yeah, that's my advice for anybody who wants to get into music. Just do it. It's so good for your soul.
Thanks, Kelsey. That's perfect advice.
Good. You're welcome.
All right. So thank you so much. Those are